Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. So, in continuation of our summer farm tour series, today we are once again hanging out with the great Clara Coleman to discuss the farm stand operation there at Four Season Farm in Maine and some of the important little nuances involved with running it and some different things they've tried over the years in case you want to do something similar on your own farm. Real quick, don't forget to check out the show notes for some places you can find me this winter of 2023-2024, including the Acres Eco Ag Conference, the 2024 Dallas Inner City Growers Symposium in Texas. There are probably other Dallases out there. The Utah Food and Farm Conference at the Red Acre Center, the Organic Association of Kentucky Conference, OAK, one of my favorites, and I will be at the Organic Growers School outside of Asheville, North Carolina in March. Otherwise, enough for me. Let's get to it with Clara Coleman of Four Season Farm.
Yeah, so our sales model has evolved over the years. As of right now, we have a summer farm stand that's open from May to October, open just one day a week on Saturdays for 2 hours, 10 to noon. That probably brings in, it's varied over the years, but you know, it might only be about 25% of gross sales. The rest is direct wholesale, or you know, obviously we have some clients that are sort of wholesale pricing, and then we do still, like some restaurants, we still charge sort of retail pricing. So I would say 60 to 75% is going to those accounts. And that includes the local food co-op, and that's actually the majority of our sales because we sell to them twice a week, year round. And then we have restaurants that are seasonal. That's kind of the general makeup. The farm stand has evolved over the years. You know, when my mom and dad were first doing this, I can't remember the exact day it was open. I think it was only open maybe Saturday or Sunday morning, just for a few hours. And, you know, they were just getting local summer customers sort of sporadically. And that was in a different building or a different sort of lean-to building. So fast forward to the 90s when Four Season Farm was sort of established by my dad and stepmother. They built a dedicated sort of pole barn building, uninsulated, sort of open doors. And when they decided initially to do it 6 days a week, and that was open from 1 until 5 every afternoon. And it was kind of like a little more casual setup. If people drove up, someone working on the farm would stop what they're doing and come and, you know, serve the customer. And that, you know, worked well at that time. However, it did sort of disperse the sales. And what I found when I moved back in 2016 is that if I could isolate and concentrate the farm stand to one day for a short time period, then it would create this sort of event mentality. You know, there's a little bit of kind of the scarcity mindset too. You don't want to overpopulate your availability of your stuff everywhere because people aren't going to think it is as special, so to speak. But also it's just a lot of less time and effort on the farmer and the farm workers to manage it. You have just short time period. You have one major harvest day that you're getting ready for it. And then you have this, you know, relatively short window of maybe 4 hours total on a Saturday to do the sales. And, you know, we will do the majority of the sales probably in the first hour. So, you know, the downside would be we get probably crowds of people, sometimes can be a little unwieldy to manage. The worst of that was during COVID. So the first couple of years of the pandemic, just because people were so eager to get produce. So we had to actually have this sign at the beginning of the driveway that said, "Do not cut the line," because people would actually get out of their car and walk up and cut the line, even though they were way back at the end. So yeah, you know, it's for me, it was really about how to sort of manage the week and create a schedule that was predictable, reliable, and it just allowed a very dedicated time to be able to serve our local customers. It's also allowed for people to visit the farm. It's a great opportunity to walk around. We've always had an open farm policy. Anyone can come and visit anytime, but to come on a farm stand day means that they might get a chance more to talk to Elliot or Barbara or myself or people working here or each other.
Yeah, just them bumping into each other.
Exactly. It's a social event. Yes. So people really enjoy coming to spend time here. They will obviously learn just by proximity to what they see and taste, how we do what we do. And it's a beautiful spot. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty much as far as you can get from civilization, but it's worth the drive and the trip to come. I'll say that, there's been a couple of advantages. Obviously, this farm is known, and because we receive so many visitors, having a farm stand is fairly logical because we know we can draw people here already. Also, because it's only open one day a week, it's easier to sort of word of mouth advertise that. But the sales, May to October, the sales sort of look like a bell curve. It starts off fairly slow and creeps up and peaks probably end of July and then continues to slough off. So we aren't doing crazy sales right from the get-go. The numbers of transactions obviously increase too. We might only do about 30 transactions, in the early summer, up to 100 in height of summer. But actually, if you think about that, that's not that many transactions. However, the people generally get a lot of product when they come because it's only open one day a week. So they kind of stock up. Those two things have worked in our advantage. The other thing I've also had to be mindful of is, always trying to anticipate how much to harvest because you have no idea how much you're actually going to sell. I mean, I think any farmer going to a farmer's market always has that dilemma. So one of the ways I've dealt with that is one of our wholesale accounts, their normal delivery day is either Friday or Saturday, and for their second order. So what we do is we stuff that it hasn't actually sold within that 2-hour period can actually be brought to them. So it works that we don't end up having waste that way because it's something that's already harvested, already packaged, ready to go. And there is a place for us to sell it. So so it's just trying to kind of manage like, what is it they need? How do I make sure that we provide what we say we have, because we could have a run on, tomatoes and then we have nothing to sell to them. So, there's disadvantages of that approach too, but for the most part, it allows us to kind of unload everything that we harvest and prepare. Interestingly, with the pandemic, the farm stand grew, pretty, I don't even know what the percentage was, but it definitely grew more than I anticipated during the first 2 summers of the pandemic. But interestingly, it has dropped back since. And I haven't really evaluated the numbers yet, but it may be actually similar to what it was pre-pandemic. So it's really hard to kind of like say, has it grown? I mean, I think we're always going to only be able to service a certain number of customers because we're in the middle of nowhere. And just based on our location and the clientele that live around here or that can come here. So I don't really see it as something that really can grow in any crazy way. Also, we only sell fresh produce. We don't do frozen, neighboring frozen meat or any of those other things. We really keep it just specific to what we produce here. So that might be somewhat of a limitation too. We're not a farm store. We're just a farm stand. So I think there might be a cap to how much we can grow. Yes, so we do not do any farmers markets. We just do the farm stand and then the wholesale accounts. And I think a lot of farmers have sort of looked at how to do that because the farmers market kind of slog, we'll call it, is really hard. It's very time consuming and difficult to manage, especially with labor. So having this, this is almost like, it's like the face of the farm, this is a way to invite people here. And then they have an opportunity to buy some produce while they're here. It drives sales and drives, recognition, but it isn't the primary focus for sales. Also, I made a decision to only accept credit card or checks and using like Square, for instance. I know a lot of people at farm stands will do cash, and it just became a point where it was so difficult to manage. So the credit card only or checks, if necessary, has, I think, really helped too. It's helped the efficiency of moving that many people through in a very short time period. Yeah, so Elliot and Barbara designed the building and had a friend build it. Originally, the concept was to have an artist collective on one side and then the farm stand on the other. So that was because they had all these neighbors that were artists and wanted to sell their paintings or their sculptures. And also it was for books, for the sale of their books as well. But that sort of, broke apart, and I wanted more space just to have for the farm stand. So it's just a farm stand space now, but having like open doors, so it feels very inviting for people to come in. It doesn't have to be an expensive building if you don't insulate it. We have very simple sort of electric hookups to it. There's no water access, plumbing, or anything like that. So just very simple building to really protect from sun and rain. Yeah, the commercial kitchen building was also a decision that Elliot and Barbara made before I came back. It was two parts. One, employees that were living here needed to have a good, kitchen, bathroom space. So this was providing that. It also was sort of looking at how to expand enterprise opportunities with having a certified commercial kitchen. But mostly it has become a space that is used by our local neighbor who prepares Asian cuisine and sells it either here or locally. So mostly it's kind of become a community space that can serve our community members. And we have not, as a business, decided to take advantage of the certification. I think that's one of the challenging parts of that is sort of, you really have to have someone who's dedicated to doing that, to doing those value-added products. And it was never something that I think any one of us really were drawn to. And it's kind of like so much of this farm is made up of all these little tiny houses. You get the tiny house farm stand, the tiny house commercial kitchen, tiny house, housing. So, it fits the aesthetic of the farm. It's sort of these cute little, small buildings. And again, it served the purpose of providing a kitchen space and bathroom space for our employees too. The other use of this farm stand space is for event dinners, farm dinners. We've used it often as a rain space or just a cozier space to host dinners or farm events. So it really has a lot of different uses. And in the winter, it kind of becomes storage for, implements and supplies. So it's always a useful space.
Just an enormous thank you to Clara and to Jackson, who filmed and edited this video. Make sure to check out the Winter Growers podcast hosted by Clara, and also follow her work with Real Farmer Care. Very cool stuff. I'll link all of that in the show notes, as well as the aforementioned conferences. Don't forget, if you appreciate this work, you can support it by just buying an awesome and nerdy farm book that I wrote. It's called the Living Soil Handbook, and when you get it from no-tillgrowers.com, the proceeds from that sale go to making more videos like this, doing more farm tours, doing more videos from my own farm. Or you can just buy a hat or other merch, or just go to patreon.com/no-tillgrowers and sign up. Last, you can also just hit that super thanks button. That works too. Otherwise, like this video if you like this video. If you are not subscribed to this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, you're awesome. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.
So I'm Daniel Mays. We're here at Frith Farm in Scarborough, Maine, southern Maine. We grow mixed organic vegetables and some small fruit on 3.5 acres.